She walked into court accused of attacking a police officer, calm, composed, and silent beneath the weight of 1,000 eyes. The officer's story was flawless, his badge gleaming like truth itself. But behind her steady gaze was something no one in that room could have imagined. They saw a suspect. They had no idea they were staring at a warrior, a woman trained to fight battles most could never survive. And when the truth came out, it wouldn't just shatter his lies, it would expose an entire system built to protect him. But what the court didn't know was that the real fight was only about to begin. Before that day in court, Monica Jackson lived a quiet, disciplined life. She kept to herself, waking before sunrise to run through the still, empty streets of her small town. To her neighbors, she was polite but distant, someone who moved with purpose, yet never spoke much about her past. She volunteered at a local youth center, teaching self-defense to young girls who saw her as strong, unshakable, invincible. But behind her calm exterior was a woman who had seen too much, fought too hard, and learned that silence was sometimes the only armor left. That evening, as she drove home from visiting a friend, she took a familiar shortcut, a quiet road lined with shuttered storefronts and dim streetlights. It was supposed to be a routine drive, nothing more, until flashing red and blue lights cut through the night, and a single voice demanded answers she didn't know. She thought it would end there, a misunderstanding easily explained. But what began as a traffic stop was about to spiral into something far darker, because the man who pulled her over wasn't looking for the truth. He was looking for control. And Monica was about to remind him who he was really dealing with. The courtroom was silent, the kind of silence that buzzed in the ears and made every breath feel like a confession. Officer Simmons sat tall, his uniform crisp, his story rehearsed to perfection. He spoke like a man convinced the truth belonged to him, describing Monica as aggressive, unstable, dangerous. His words dripped with confidence until the defense called her to stand. Monica rose slowly, her every step deliberate. The sound of her heels echoed across the wooden floor, steady, unshaken. The crowd leaned in as she adjusted the microphone, her eyes fixed on a man who had lied so easily. When she began to speak, her voice was calm, too calm. She didn't raise it. She didn't need to. She told the court what had really happened that night. The stop, the questions, the grip on her wrist that left bruises. The room shifted with each word. Even Judge Grayson, who had spent decades behind that bench, couldn't mask his discomfort. Still, the prosecutor smirked, circling her with questions meant to break her composure. "Miss Jackson," he said, "you expect this court to believe a decorated officer fabricated an entire story out of thin air?" Monica met his gaze, unflinching. "Not out of thin air," she said. "Out of habit." A ripple of murmurs spread through the courtroom. Simmons shifted in his chair. The prosecutor pressed harder, accusing her of twisting facts, of exaggerating. But Monica wasn't done. She reached for a small folder her lawyer had placed on the table. When she handed it to the judge, the courtroom held its breath. Inside, her military record. Judge Grayson adjusted his glasses, reading silently before looking up, his expression unreadable. "Lieutenant Commander Monica Jackson," he said slowly. The words hung in the air like thunder before a storm. Gasps rippled through the gallery. Simmons froze, color draining from his face. Monica continued, her voice steady as stone. "I spent 20 years serving this country, leading missions where hesitation meant death. I know restraint. I know discipline. And I know when someone abuses power because I've spent my life protecting people from it." Simmons's mask cracked. He stammered, his confidence crumbling. "That's not... She never identified herself." Monica turned to him, her expression almost pitying. "I didn't have to. You should have treated me with respect, regardless of who I was." The weight of her words crushed the silence. Even the air seemed to pause. The video evidence played next. The shaky footage showing Simmons shoving her against a car, his voice echoing through the courtroom. Asterisk, "Women like you don't get to question me." Asterisk, the crowd erupted. The judge slammed his gavel, demanding order, but it was too late. The truth was out. Simmons looked cornered, sweat rolling down his temple, the illusion of authority unraveling in real time. Every eye that once saw him as a hero now saw something else, A man exposed by his own arrogance. Monica didn't gloat. She didn't need to. She sat back down, composed, her hands folded neatly in front of her. The fight wasn't just about clearing her name anymore. It was about showing what justice looks like when truth finally has a voice. And as the courtroom buzzed with disbelief, one thought lingered above all. If this is what it takes for one woman to be believed, how many voices have been silenced before her? But the verdict hadn't come yet, and what happened next would decide whether truth could truly triumph or if power would win again. The verdict came down like a whisper, soft, almost uncertain at first, but carrying the weight of everything that had led to this moment. Not guilty. For a second, no one moved. The courtroom was frozen in disbelief. Then the murmurs began, some in relief, others in shock. Monica didn't flinch. She sat still, eyes closed, a slow breath leaving her chest as though she'd been holding it for years. Around her, people turned to look at Officer Simmons, who sat pale and trembling, stripped of the arrogance that once defined him. His lies had collapsed under the weight of truth, and the uniform he wore could no longer shield him. But even as the judge dismissed the case, there was no celebration, only a quiet awareness that something much bigger had been exposed. Justice, in its truest form, had flickered for a moment, fragile but undeniable, and everyone in that room had seen it. Outside, the courthouse steps were crowded with reporters and onlookers. Cameras flashed, questions flew, microphones reached toward her like weapons and lifelines all at once. Miss Jackson, how does it feel to win? What message do you have for Officer Simmons? Do you think this changes anything? Monica didn't answer right away. She stood at the top of the steps, looking out over the sea of faces, some supportive, some skeptical, many just curious. Then she said quietly, this wasn't a victory. It was survival, and survival shouldn't be the best we can hope for. The crowd fell silent. Even the cameras seemed to pause. That night, she went home alone. The house felt smaller somehow, quieter. On the mantel sat the folded flag she'd once been handed for her service, a symbol of sacrifice, of honor. She looked at it differently now, because the fight she'd faced overseas had rules, codes, accountability. The one she faced here didn't. She turned on the TV. Her face filled the screen, headlines scrolling beneath her name. Former Navy SEAL acquitted. Officer under investigation. Courtroom shocked by hidden truth. But behind the sensationalism, she could see the same pattern. The world was more interested in the drama than the lesson. She sat down, the glow of the screen washing over her, and whispered to herself, how many more of us have to prove our worth before we're believed? In the weeks that followed, Simmons was placed on leave, his career unraveling quietly behind closed doors. The department issued statements about reviewing protocol, reevaluating training, addressing bias. Words crafted to sound like progress, but designed to fade with time. Yet something had shifted. Young women began reaching out to her. Some black, some brown, all with stories of their own. Stories of fear, of humiliation, of silence. They saw in Monica what they'd been told to hide. Strength that refused to be softened. She started mentoring them, teaching them not just self-defense, but self-worth. And still at night, she'd think about that courtroom. The way the truth had almost been buried under lies spoken with confidence. The way one badge had carried more weight than years of service and sacrifice. The way justice had only prevailed because she had the training, the proof, the composure to survive it. But what about the ones who didn't? That question haunted her. It should haunt all of us. Because for every Monica Jackson who makes it to the stand, there are countless others who never get the chance. Their stories end before they begin. Silenced by fear, by power, by systems that still see color before they see character. Monica didn't fight that battle to become a headline. She fought it because truth matters, even when it's inconvenient. Because silence protects the wrong people. Because justice should never depend on the title before your name. As she looked out her window one last time, the sun breaking over the horizon, she whispered what had become her mantra, words that should echo far beyond her story. You can strip me of my freedom, my dignity, my name, but you'll never strip me of the truth. And maybe that's where change begins. Not in the courtroom, not in the headlines, but in the courage to ask ourselves, How many more truths must be silenced before we finally start to listen?